Hello, my name is Robert, and welcome to the wonderful world of solo board gaming. So, you just found out that solo board gaming is a thing. And trust me, I know that it can be overwhelming at first. So, I have assembled this list of what I believe are the best games for you to get into the hobby. I created a similar list in early 2023, but I have played many games since, so I figured I'd update it. And just like last time, my focus for this list will be accessibility. I don't want to sour your first experience with a solo board game by suggesting a game that might be too complex for you. I've included many genres and types of games, so I'm sure you'll find something in this list for you. So I've gathered these easy to learn yet fun games for you, assuming that at most you've played maybe Uno or Catan or Monopoly. If you're a more seasoned gamer, you can check out my top 50 solo board games of all time list. You'll find much mid-tier games there. The list is in no particular order, but I will leave what I would consider my top choices for numbers 1 through 5. And now, without further ado, let me be your Sherpa into the exciting frontier that is the world of solo board gaming. Let's get started. Alright, so before moving into the main list, I do have one honorable mention, and that's Q-Less. So this is a game that I played for the first time this year, and I was obsessed with it for a while, and it has become a staple of when I travel. So this game is very, very simple. It's just a dozen dice, and then you have the rules on the back. It is just so simple to learn. You basically just roll all of them, and you need to try to make the best word combination that you can. And it says caution can be addictive, and I can actually attest to that. Not only is it quick to learn, it's also extremely quick to play. You can sit there and agonize for as long as you can trying to figure out the best word combination that you can and get the most points. But there are gonna be some impossible combinations where a few dice are gonna be left out. So yeah, I love this game, highly recommended. Alright, so at number 20, let's start very basic. I want to talk about games that you can just play with a standard deck of cards. So you don't even need to spend a penny if you want to do this today. Did you know that there are many extremely creative games that you can play solitaire with a standard deck of cards? And I'm not talking about the computer solitaire game that you play at the office when you should instead be working. I'm talking about things like Regicide, which you can download the rules for this today. I'll leave links to all of this stuff in the description. So starting with Regicide, this is an extremely creative game where you basically have to go through the deck. You have to defeat the jokers, queens, and kings. And you have this hand management element where you have to puzzle with the different numbers so that you can most effectively defeat whatever you're facing at that moment. Now, each of the different suites have special powers, and it really is not that difficult to learn. It's basically just a front and back of a sheet. So go try this game out. You can download the rules for free, and if you want to support the developer, you can purchase the specially illustrated deck for Regicide. Another awesome game that you can play with just a deck of cards is Dungeon Solitaire. So in this extremely creative game, you basically simulate a dungeon crawling experience, and you have to delve deep into the dungeon, and you have to push your luck, and you have to try to delve as deep as possible into the dungeon and exit before you run out of time, and your goal is to find the 4 tomb hoards of the ancient kings. It is very simple to learn, it's just a few sheets, and I cut all of these sheets very small so that I could fit my deck of cards and these rules into a little Ultra Pro box. So this is amazing for travel. You can just bring a standard deck of cards and you have standard solitaire, but then you have Regicide and also Dungeon Solitaire. But I also want to make sure I bring up this gem of a game. It's Bowling Solitaire. Now, the way that I carry the rules with me, I created this little sticker that I put on this Ultra Pro card carrier. But I'll leave a link to the standard rules of the game, which are a few sheets long. This is just like a little summary. But basically, this game is extremely thematic, and you don't need the entire deck of cards. You just need 20 cards out of a standard deck of cards, so it's even more portable. And it is so creative. It basically actually simulates bowling, and it is just so impressive. It's very mathy. I love this game. It sets up in minutes. It gives you like a nice mathy puzzle where you're trying to use your bowling balls and try to bring down pins. It really is so impressive. It's one of my favorite games that you can just play with a standard deck of cards. And those are just the ones that I've tried. There's a whole world out there of games that people concoct using standard decks of cards, but those are the ones that I've tried, and I've quite enjoyed them. I also want to point out that if you have a tarot deck, which I have a couple myself, like this mini tarot deck, you can purchase Dungeon Solitaire Labyrinth of Souls, which is a more advanced version of Dungeon Solitaire. And it is definitely more interesting because there's more cards from the Tarot Arcana, and there's even campaign rules and everything. So yeah, those are awesome games with a standard deck of cards or a tarot deck. Moving on, we have the Turing Machine. So this is a logic deduction game that I included this because it is pretty easy to learn. And I know that there's a lot of people that like doing like daily logic puzzles and Sudoku and crossword and that type of thing. And it's like a daily habit that you do while you drink your coffee in the morning and whatnot. So this game offers that property. So what you do in this game basically is that you have a certain sequence of numbers that you need to deduce. And the box includes a bunch of problems, but you can also download extra ones. And there's logic puzzles that increase in difficulty there, as you can see. And the way it works is that the problem will have you fetch these cards that give you some clues as to what the sequence of numbers should be. Then you have to use these punch cards with these cards to narrow down the possibilities of numbers. And the more proposals that you do, hopefully that'll narrow down what the correct answer should be. Now, ideally, you will arrive at the answer while at the same time having to make the least amount of proposals. And then if you believe that you've arrived at the answer, you go and check for the solution. So yeah, this game is very impressive, it's easy to learn, and it will make you feel like a smarty pants. So I know that there's people that eat this type of logic puzzle up. I did enjoy my time with it. I do tend to reach for other types of games personally, but like I said, I know that there's people that enjoy their daily logic puzzles, so I would be doing you a disservice if I did not mention this game. It's very unique, very easy to learn, very impressive. That's Turing Machine. Next, we have Role Player, and the easiest way to describe this game is basically the gamification of the process of creating a D&D character. So you pick a character race board, and then you'll draw a random alignment card, class card, and backstory card, which will set some parameters and give you some goals as to what type of attributes you want to accomplish with your character. You're going to be drawing dice out of this bag and then allocate them into these slots, and you're going to use a lot of dice manipulation techniques in order to maximize the scoring at the end. There's also a row of items that you purchase from to increase your scoring. Now, with just the base version of the game, you get a nice simple puzzle. And now this is a multiplayer game with a solo mode, but the solo mode has little to no upkeep. And that's one thing if you're new to this type of solo game. Some solo games require you to do some heavy maintenance of an AI that simulates an opponent, and other solo modes don't really require you to maintain an opponent and simply set you some parameters, some goals, among other things. But the point of it is that this is an awesome game because there's really no opponent to maintain. So it's basically always your turn. And I included it in this list because it's just super fun and easy to learn. Once you get past the setup sheets in the rulebook, you're only looking at about 5 to 6 pages of actual rules. Additionally, I recommend that you eventually get the Monsters and Minions expansion, which really adds a lot more to the game by including monsters for you to hunt. And I would not play it without the expansion, but if you're new to this type of thing, I actually just suggest that you get the base game first, and if you like what you see, then get the Monsters and Minions expansion. And there's just so much variety because of the different races, the different alignments, classes, and backstories. And that really will keep the puzzle fresh every time. So yeah, folks, that's Role Player. Love this game, could play it anytime. I don't think it'll ever leave my collection. Next, we have Ascension Eternal, and this is a deck builder. So deck builders are a huge category in board gaming, which I'm a huge fan of, by the way, because I love card games. It's one of the most represented types of games in my collection. So this is a pure card game and one of the purest, simplest deck builders that you can buy. But make no mistake, despite the simplicity, this is extremely fun to play, and I was quite addicted to it when I first got it. So in deck builder games, you'll start with a small basic deck of cards, and there will be a market row from which you purchase cards, and you add them to your deck as the game goes on, and you start creating a really powerful deck. So if you've played games like Magic or Pokemon, it hits some of those notes, and it forgoes the need of buying large collections in order for you to pull off cool combos and play awesome turns. Now, Ascension itself, it's a very renowned series of games, and there's many titles in the series. I personally play the app a lot myself. This is the only physical Ascension game that I have in my solo board game collection. I like it because it basically It's a best hits of the whole Ascension series, and it's a nice small package that contains a lot of awesome cards, and you'll pull off some really cool combos. So there's some really powerful cards in this. Now the AI is very simple to run. Basically, you have an AI that's trying to race to get more points than you, and it just takes a few seconds to run an AI turn, and then you can go back to your deck building. So yeah, that's Ascension Eternal. Awesome, simple, fun. All right, and since we're talking about deck builders, let's talk about Star Realms. So this is another great introductory deck builder. Now, it's about on the same level of depth as Ascension. It has a little bit more going on mechanically compared to Ascension, but not by a huge margin. It's still a very simple deck builder. But it is so much fun, man. Star Realms is a staple of the deck building genre, and I've played it since it first came out, and I've played hundreds of rounds on the Star Realms app. But yeah, when it comes to solo, if you buy the Star Realms Frontiers package, it comes with these bosses that you go up against. And each of the bosses are very simple to operate. You're gonna be done with their turn in seconds, and then you can just go back to your deck building. And yep, just like Ascension, you start with a very basic deck. You have your market row, and as the game progresses, you're going to be using money to buy cards from the market and attack power to defeat the boss. And there's other Star Realms products that you can buy so that you can combine them or keep them individually, and that way you have different markets to buy from for variety. But yeah, folks, that's Star Realms Frontiers. This is an amazing package for the price, for how much fun you're going to have defeating those bosses. And since we're talking about deck builders and sci-fi games, let me introduce you to Warp's Edge. So Warp's Edge is what is known as a back builder, and it is another category of game similar to deck building in a way, except rather than using cards, you use tokens that go into a bag, and then you just draw randomly from it. So as the game progresses, you're going to be throwing these other more powerful tokens into the bag and pulling out more powerful combos. And the goal of this game is basically you pick a ship, of which there's various, and a mothership to go up against, which again there's multiple of, and each ship has their own unique power and specialties, as well as each mothership having their own trick that you have to overcome. Alright, so one thing to note is that this game, compared to the others in the list, is on the more complex side. Now, it really is not a complicated game, okay? It's just relative to the other games in the list. It might take a bit more for you to wrap your head around this game, especially if you're not a very seasoned board gamer. But it is simple enough that I feel comfortable including it in the list. And another really cool thing about this game is that it's a pure solo game. It's not a multiplayer game that comes with a solo mode. It is a solo-only game, and I think this is a great example of what the genre can offer. So another little note is that I got the version that has these deluxe tokens. The normal retail version has cardboard tokens, but if you still want the deluxe feel, you can just buy coin capsules and take your time putting each of the tokens in a coin capsule, and that'll work just fine. But yeah, folks, that's Warp's Edge, a great example of how compelling a solo-only game can be. Moving on, we have A Gentle Rain, a game that I keep bringing up in multiple lists over and over and that I rave about. So this game has just so much going for it. One, it's a small box, it's affordable, it's a solo-only game, so it's not a multiplayer game with solo rules. But also, it is very, very simple to learn, yet it has a compelling enough puzzle. It is very relaxing, it has a soothing quality to it, and basically this is a tile placement game. As far as comparisons to other more mainstream games, you can think of this as a solo Carcassonne in a way. And the rulebook is also unconventionally written, which I always bring up, but just look at that. It's a front and back, and that's it. You're going to be learning this in minutes and playing in no time. And this is an original copy from the very first edition, but thankfully it got picked up by a new publisher, and it has a much more wider availability. I've seen it at Target. You can buy this at Target even, and on Amazon. So yeah, this is much more available now. It's pretty cheap. Highly recommended. Such a great, simple, relaxing game. Gentle Rain. And speaking of relaxing tile placement games, let's talk about Cascadia. So this is another soothing nature-themed game where the goal is basically you're going to be drawing these tiles from a huge lot of tiles that the game includes in the box. So you randomly draw tiles and you're creating this map. So at the start of the game, you're going to draw a random card from each type of animal. And the game includes a stack of different cards for each of the animals, which adds a lot of variety. Then you're going to be drawing animal wood tokens out of a bag, and you're going to try to place the tiles and the tokens as you draw the map in the most effective way possible so that you can meet the scoring conditions and get the highest score possible. So this game is very easy to learn. The rulebook's about 10 pages. And yes, it is a multiplayer game with a solo mode, but I honestly don't feel that it compromises much when it comes to the solo experience. If you're new to this world, one thing you'll find is that a lot of allegedly multiplayer games already feel like solitaire, but it's like all of you are playing solitaire at the same time, meaning that there's not much interaction. Now, I haven't played this multiplayer, so I don't know if this is the case for Cascadia, but there are a lot of games that feel like that. So when you play them solo, you're really not changing the parameters of the game much. So you can play the game completely randomized, but you can also go for achievement, which will challenge you and try to accomplish certain tasks, and they'll tell you to draw specific cards from each of the types of animals and try to go for a specific score goal. But yeah, folks, that's Cascadia, a very remarkable game that offers a very, very compelling puzzle, considering how simple it is to learn and how minimalist it is as far as the types of components that it includes. Moving on, we have One Deck Dungeon. And this is a fantastic little dungeon crawler where you're going to pick a class and then you're going to delve into the dungeon and try to face a final boss at the end. So as you traverse the dungeon, you're going to flip these door cards and you're going to face dangers. And combat is pretty abstracted here. What will happen is that you're going to roll these colorful dice based on your character's stats. And as the game progresses, you're going to add more stats to your character by putting these cards underneath them. So you'll progress through the dungeon, getting more powerful, gaining stats and gaining abilities, and facing a boss and hopefully defeating them at the end. And the game comes with plenty of classes. I do have two versions of the game here combined. There's the original and then there's Forest of Shadows. So I recommend that you start with the original box, and I also want to point out that the game really shines with its campaign mode, because some of the later bosses and dungeons, you can't really face them with a fresh character. You're gonna get annihilated. So what you do is you play the campaign mode, where at the end of a dungeon run, which initially you should go for the easier dungeons to gain some experience. At the end of each of those dungeon runs, you're gonna gain experience and you'll unlock inherent abilities for your character, which will help you face the tougher dungeons later on. So yeah, I think that's really where the game shines. I really like this very simple campaign mode that this includes. Now, one note, as far as complexity, this is also another game that is a bit more pushing it on the complexity department, but I think that it is simple enough that you should be able to grasp it. And also, I want to bring up the fact that there is a very cool app for this game that I play very frequently. So you can also check out the digital app version of this. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, that's One Deck Dungeon. It's a small box, so I don't think that it'll ever leave my collection. And it was one of my first solo board games within the first 10 or so games that I ever tried. I think anyone who's a solo board gamer should try this game at some point. Moving on, we have Cartographers, one of my favorite solo board games of all time, within my top 20. So this is from a genre known as verb and write games. So in that genre, typically you either draw from a deck of cards or you roll dice, and based on the results of the dice or what you draw, you're gonna use a pen or pencil to draw on a sheet or map of sorts. Now in Cartographers, you're going to be drawing a map, and it takes place across the span of 4 seasons. So you have 4 seasons to draw the best map that you can and get the highest score possible. And this is basically another example of a multiplayer solitaire game. Yes, it is a multiplayer game, but there really isn't much of a difference when you play by yourself. So the game is extremely varied because when you set up, you're going to pick a scoring card, and there are 4 types of scoring cards, and then each of them have their own variation. So no 2 games will ever feel the same. And each turn you're gonna draw from a deck that will dictate what Tetris shape you can draw. And the deck basically also acts as a timer, so that way you know when the season ends. And yeah, by the way, the game has a Tetris quality to it that I really appreciate, also known as polyomino in board gaming terms. So you're gonna be rotating shapes and figuring out the best way to place these shapes, and also pick a region type. Of which there's 4. So you're gonna pick a region type to draw into the map and try to meet the scoring parameters to the best effect. Also, one suggestion that makes this game infinitely better: make sure that you get colored pens. They make a huge difference, and it also helps you distinguish the shapes when it comes to scoring at the end. So I can't recommend enough that you make sure that you get colored pens for this game. It's fantastic. It makes a huge difference. But yeah, folks, that's Cartographers, one of the best games in the verb and write genre. And there's many, many more in that genre that you can check out. There's many people's favorites, but this is the only verb and write game that I've included in my list. It's my absolute favorite. It's very easy to learn, it's cheap, and it's one of the types of games that I could play anytime. I love the puzzle every time I play this. It's just so good. All right, moving on, I want to introduce you to the wargaming genre, of which there's plenty of soloable games. Now, in my opinion, if I wanted to introduce anybody to the solo wargaming genre, there's no better choice than Mike Lambo's Solitaire Wargame books. Now, these you can buy on Amazon directly, and keep in mind that they don't come spiral bound. I went to my local FedEx and had it spiral bound because it helps a lot. So the way that it works is you buy one of his books, and then it comes with the rules, but you basically play on the book. So wargames are known for recreating historical events. So Mike Lambo's books cover many historical periods of time. You can buy World War II books, Vietnam books, and he even has a couple of historical books. He has one that's basically like aliens in space, where you're in a ship with your crew and you're hunting down bugs. So yeah, you'll need to provide some D6 dice of your own, but you'll also need to create your own tokens. So typically he'll include the tokens in the book for you to cut out. But you can use, learning cubes, beans, coins, whatever you want. You don't really even have to go through that much work because in each of his scenarios, there's only going to be a couple types of units. So as long as you have like a couple different colored cubes or coins or tokens, you'll be able to distinguish which type of unit you're referring to. But yeah, his books will include multiple scenarios, and they are very, very simple to learn, folks. And I just think that they are so good. They give you that dose of history, which is very interesting, which is something that I really appreciate about war games in general. And the AI is very simple to run, and they offer some cool strategic depth. And there are some scenarios that are pretty tough, which will require multiple plays and might require different tactical approaches. And in case that you might have heard of the Commands and Colors series, at least this book in particular that I'm showing you, mechanically, it reminds me a lot of Commands and Colors. But yeah, this is the only book of his that I've tried. But yeah, if I wanted to introduce you folks to wargaming, I really think that there's no better choice to ease you into this amazing genre of games. And there's a whole world of war games. There's people, as far as like solo board gaming, there's people that only dedicate to war games. So it's that much of a strong genre that people don't really even play other types of games. They just buy war games. So yeah, folks, those are Mike Lambo's Solitaire wargaming books. There's many to choose from. I really don't think that you can go wrong with any of them. I do want to try more. I haven't gotten around to doing that, but I went through this entire book and it was just so much fun. There's like 20 or so scenarios and it was an amazing time. So can't recommend this enough. Next, we have Jump Drive, and this is a game that I've brought up many times in multiple lists. This is a tableau builder, which is a very big genre in board games, and you'll see a lot of soloable tableau builders. But yeah, this tableau building in its purest form, folks. This is a small sibling of the bigger brother Race for the Galaxy, which is a very renowned and excellent board game, which has an amazing app, by the way. very addicting. So yeah, this game comes with a very thick deck of cards, which will keep things varied every time that you play, and it'll give you different strategies for you to build the best tableau. Now, this game is not conventionally solvable, but it is solvable if you download a fan-made expansion. Which, by the way, don't be surprised if you're new to this hobby. Don't be afraid of fan-made solo modes, because there's really, really good fan-made solo modes out there. And sometimes they are so good that they get picked up by the publisher, which is what happened here. So this was a fan-made mode that basically gives you some scenarios for you to play. And it is so good and so addicting, which I can attest to it because I was there when people were talking about this before it got picked up by the publisher, and I got addicted to this game. This game's amazing with those solo scenarios. But it is so good that it got picked up by the publisher. So you can still download this file if you buy the base game, okay, and you want to try it out. But if you want to get the official version of this fan-made solo mode, you can buy the Terminal Velocity expansion, which integrates it officially. But this works just as well. I'll leave the links to this so that you can download it. But yeah, this really offers such amazing card play and tableau building, and it's just so quick to play. You're gonna be addicted to this, folks. I'm telling you, it's just so good. And by the way, this was on my top 20 at some point. These days, I favor bigger, meatier games than this. This is simple, but it offers a very fun and compelling experience. But yeah, folks, that's Jump Drive, tableau building and engine building at its purest. Next, we have Galdor's Grip. Now, there's a couple things that make this game special in this list, okay? So first, it is a print-and-play game. It is not a game that is conventionally released by a publisher that you can buy on Amazon or a board gaming store. However, it does appear that it got picked up by a publisher, but it hasn't been released yet. You can still download it, which I'll leave a link to. So another reason why this game stands out from this list is because it's one of the few in-hand games in this list, which is also a very interesting genre. So in-hand games are basically games that you don't need a table for. The game remains in your hand the entire time. And in Galdor's Grip, the goal is to slowly reveal the deck one card at a time, and you need to achieve a score of 9 points. And there are many cards here that offer you scoring, okay? Now, it's not all easy. There are these figments that you're gonna face that could make you lose the game. And you're gonna be rotating cards and also rearranging them in order to achieve certain scoring conditions and also maybe avoid the bad guys. The game comes with expansions that allow you to adjust the composition of the deck, and it lets you try different combinations for more variation for scoring and different mechanics and whatnot. And another great thing about this game is that it is very easy to learn, okay? It's just a few pages of the rule book, and when you visit the designer, you can just tip them whatever amount you want for the game. But yeah, the files are hosted on their website. And as far as how to assemble a print-and-play game, well, to give you some very quick tips, hopefully you'll have some standard cards from a dollar store or maybe some bulk Magic the Gathering or lands or Pokemon cards. So you can print the game sheets and cut them, for which, by the way, I suggest that you get a cutting blade so that you make precise cuts. And then you just sleeve the cards. You can just put a Magic the Gathering card and then you put the front and back of the cards and sleeve it. And that's just a very quick way of print and playing the game in case that you have never done it. Now, the way that I print and play this game, which is another method, is if you have a laminator, you can print the sheets front and back on cardstock paper, okay? I would say like 80-point paper. That should be pretty good. And then you 80-point or 60-point paper. And then you laminate and cut the sheets, okay? And you can also then sleeve them to make sure that they're flush, all right? Because sometimes when you cut cards, they can be uneven on width and height. But by sleeving them, you make it flush, okay? And if you want to go the extra mile, you can use corner cutters, but I just save time and don't bother if I'm going to sleeve the cards anyway. I think it looks fine without cutting the corners. And then you can be creative as far as how you store it. I have this little card container, and then I printed the rules pretty small, and then I double taped a big sleeve here where I put the card rules. But yeah, that's Galdor's Grip, folks, a great example of an in-hand game, and maybe your first print and play game, of which a lot of people enjoy the process of print and playing games in general. A lot of people find it soothing, okay? So that might keep you busy. The whole process of print and playing a game can be a game in of itself, so maybe you'll enjoy that. So that's a Galdor's Grip. This is a favorite among solo board gamers. Moving on, we have Orchard. And this was my first print and play game before it got picked up by a publisher. And this is a very impressive minimalist game. So what happens here is you have a deck of 9 cards. Now the game comes with 18 cards for variety, but you create a deck of 9 cards of which you draw them one at a time, right? And you're basically gonna start placing the cards as if they were tiles, basically. And it's gonna become bigger as you add more cards. But the goal is to match the colors of orchards. And as you draw more cards, you're hopefully going to increase the score by matching the colors, okay? And it is a very simple rule set. You're gonna learn it in no time. It's very portable, and the footprint is not bad at all. Another example of a pure solo game that is just fantastic and minimalist. Now, keep in mind that this is a trilogy of games. This was the very first one. There's also another 2, which I'll put up on screen. I've tried the second one, but honestly, this is the one that is my favorite. Again, I don't go for smaller portable games a lot myself these days, but this is definitely something that you should try regardless, and it is a great genre of these small minimalistic games, and Orchard is just an amazing example of them. But yeah, folks, that's Orchard. Moving on, we have Deep Space D6. So this is basically a very simple board game version of Faster Than Light. And in this game, you're gonna pick a ship of which there's multiple included in the box, and you're gonna roll these dice, right? And then this is a dice allocation game where you're gonna choose how you want to assign your dice and deal with threats that are thrown at you from this draw deck. And basically the goal is to go through this entire draw deck and make it out alive. And things are gonna escalate really quick. Initially it might seem quiet, but then all of a sudden you're gonna have a bunch of threats thrown at you, like multiple ships and, you know, things malfunctioning on the ship and all of that. And this is a solo only game. It's not a multiplayer solo game or anything. It's a pure solo game. And the way that you maintain the AI against you, basically you just draw cards from the threat deck, like I said, but you also roll a d6 that determines which enemies act, and they'll tell you their dice value there. So in this case, I rolled a 2, so the fighter would activate and it would deal 1 damage to my hull. But you do have a shield value that you can maintain as well, okay? But yeah, you have shields, a hull value for your ship, and the different dice that do different functions, like this one, for example, helps me recharge my shields. It's a very simple, fun dice chucker, and if you like Faster Than Light, you're gonna love this. Now, keep in mind that apparently the publisher is going out of business. You can find their game on their website currently, but I'm sure that this will get picked up by a publisher after that. It's such a classic solo game. I'm sure another publisher will pick it up and reprint it. If not, you can buy a secondhand copy, and there's also a really good fan-made app for Deep Space D6. It's one of my favorite solo board game apps, and one of the ones that I frequent the most just because of how simple it is when you're waiting in line and you just need like a quick time killer. It's one of my favorite things. The Deep Space D6 app's just so good. But yeah, that's Deep Space D6. Check it out, folks. All right, and now we've arrived at the top 5, and let's start with Palm Island. And this was my first in-hand game, so basically the same type of game as Galdor's Grip, which I talked about earlier. And this game does have a wide availability. Hopefully you should be able to find it at most board gaming stores and even Amazon. But yeah, this was my first in-hand game, and I was just blown away that such a thing could exist. A game that doesn't require a table. It all goes in your hand, and it is a pure solo game, and it is very, very simple to learn. And although it might seem simplistic with a small amount of cards, because of how the cards are arranged when you shuffle every time, the puzzle is very different each time I play it. And obviously, this has become a travel staple for me. I never go to the beach without bringing this with me. So yeah, the way it works is basically you rotate cards to store them as resources, and then you use those resources to purchase and improve other cards, and the goal is to score. So you spend your resources and you improve cards to make them score higher, and yeah, you basically are just trying to get the highest score that you can. And the amount of rounds is timed by this card at the end. So every time you reach this card, you rotate it, and that's how you keep track of how many rounds you've gone through. So this is a very impressive design. This will never leave my collection. It's just such a staple, and any solo board gamer should try this. I think it's one of the best intro in-hand games that you can buy that is widely available. I highly recommend the deluxe edition that has the plastic cards so that they're more durable, and I love sleeving everything, as you've seen so far with all of the card games that I've shown. But yeah, with the plastic card, you don't have to sleeve it, and the cards are a lot more durable. So I highly recommend the deluxe version. But yeah, folks, that's Palm Island, classic solo board game. Moving on, at number 4, we have Cursed. And this is an indie game and also a tin game. So there's a whole genre of solo games that come in a tin that are super portable, all right? And this is not a game that you can conventionally buy from just any board game store. This is a print-on-demand game that you have to buy from the game crafter. But you can also print it at home by buying the print-and-play files from PNP Arcade, which I'll leave in the description. So yeah, people eat up the whole solo tin game thing. But yeah, folks, let me tell you, this game is just friggin' amazing, okay? So 1, this is a solo-only game, okay? No multiplayer with solo mode. 2, you'll learn it in minutes, okay? I'm telling you, you're gonna learn this in no time. And 3rd, it is just quick, snappy, and fun. So the goal of this game is to collect 9 souls. And the way that you do that is you're gonna reveal cards from your deck, and you're gonna try to push your luck by drawing cards from your deck and adding up a attack value from weapons, okay? And you're trying not to exceed that number, and you're trying to not make that number too low, because if you stop drawing cards and you decide to take a certain amount of damage, in this case, if I decided to draw these 2 cards and that's what I got, it would be 7 against 11. So I would take 4 damage, and you don't want to take too much damage because the deck basically acts as your timer. But yeah, you capture creatures, and then sometimes they come with treasures, so you get an item that can aid you in combat. But it really is crazy how much this game does with just a deck of cards and the multi-use of them, how quick it plays. If this doesn't blow you away and demonstrate how amazing solo board gaming can be, I don't know what will. One of the best intro solo board games. Check it out. Moving on, at number 3, we have Kingdom Legacy Feudal Kingdom. And folks, this is just another amazing example of what this hobby can offer. This is another solo-only game. So the premise is that you start with this small deck of 10 cards. This deck represents your kingdom. And as the game progresses, at the end of each game, you are going to add more cards to your kingdom. So you're going to grow it by adding the next card in numerical order from the deck. And not only is it gonna grow from you finishing games and adding cards at the end of each game, but as you use your resources to improve cards in your deck, sometimes you might be prompted to add another card, and every card is numbered, so you'll know which card it'll be referring to so that you can go and fetch it from the box. And sometimes you're gonna get rid of cards altogether, and you see the little erase symbol right there. And also you're gonna be altering cards permanently by adding stickers, which will improve them, meaning that they'll offer more resources. So yeah, folks, this game just accomplishes so much, and it is cheap, by the way. You can buy it for about $10-15 depending on where you get it, and it is a legacy game. It's an amazing introduction to the concept of legacy games, which when I first started playing board games, it kind of blew me away. Basically, in legacy games, you do permanent alterations to the components of the game. You are instructed to rip cards, which people actually rarely do, by the way, which people seem to have an aversion to actually ripping the cards. They just put them away and never use them again. But yeah, the game instructs you to rip cards because they'll never be used again, or use Sharpies to negate certain icons in the card. And there's even some cards that have one-time uses, and yeah, like I said, there's stickers that permanently alter the cards, and then a lot of cards have 4 states, okay, that are gonna be evolved. throughout the experience. But yeah, folks, this is just a magical game, and you're gonna see your little kingdom evolve. By the time you go through the entire box, you're gonna see how your kingdom evolved from just 10 cards to a sprawling kingdom. Now, a couple of things that I need to give you a heads up with. This game uses AI art, which I know that a lot of people have a certain aversion to, so just giving you a heads up with that. It doesn't bother me personally. I think it works okay here. And second, the thing with legacy games is that they're meant to be played once and that's it. Now, there are ways of circumventing the legacy aspect. You can use sleeves to put the stickers, and then you unsleeve the cards and you can reset it by printing another sticker sheet and things like that. So there are ways of circumventing the legacy aspect of it. But yeah, when you play legacy games, they're meant to be played once and that's it. But yeah, folks, Kingdom Legacy Feudal Kingdom, one of the most amazing solo-only games and an amazing example of what you can do with just a simple deck of cards, some stickers, and a simple rule sheet, by the way, I almost forgot to mention. We're gonna be learning this in no time. It is just a front and back for the rules. That is it. Next, at number 2, we have Buttonshy Games. So I'm going to cheat here a little bit because I didn't want to just single out one game from the Buttonshy library. So Buttonshy is a publisher famous for publishing these cute wallet games. Now, I've tried about a dozen of them, but honestly, these are the 2 that are my favorite, and people's tastes vary. So you can go on Buttonshy's website and check out their library of solo games, because they also have multiplayer games as well. So in my opinion, you can't go wrong with any of the titles that end up in Opolis. There's Sprawlopolis, which is the original title in the series, and then there's Agropolis, and this is the 3rd one in the series, Naturopolis, and there's also Casinopolis, which was released recently. So in the Opolis series, it's basically a card placement game where you build a city, basically. And you're trying to build the city according to the scoring conditions that you draw randomly at the start of the game. And folks, it is just unbelievable how much gameplay you can get out of these Opolis games, alright? Such simple rule sets and such minimalism, just 18 cards, and that's the thing with Buttonshy games, right? They're 18 card games, but they really squeeze so much interesting design out of these wallet games. Now, some of their games have fallen flat for me, and others are interesting, but I never feel compelled to go back to. But like I said, these are the 2 that are my absolute favorite. The other one here is Ancient Realm, and this is basically a civilization-themed game where you control a few different types of resources and you play cards, and instead of placing them like in a sprawling shape like a city, you play your civilization in a row. And how you stack the cards will have different effects, and again, you're trying to get the best score that you can at the end. These are all score-based games. But yeah, this game here in particular is a bit of a travel staple for me. Do keep in mind that even though they come in small wallets, they can be a bit of an issue when it comes to the table footprint. The cities and the civilizations that you build can occupy a lot of room on the table. So it might not fit on a coffee table, and definitely you won't be able to fit this too on an airplane table or something like that. But yeah, folks, those are Buttonshy games. There's many soloable games from their library. People love collecting them. I've kind of cooled down on them. I haven't bought a new one in a while, but these 2 are just fantastic, and I frequently take them with me on trips. So these are amazing, and the 2 favorites of mine. That's Buttonshy Games. And then finally, folks, at number 1, we have Desolate. And this was my number 1 from when I made this list last time, and that has not changed. So this is basically a dungeon crawler set in space, and it is designed by Jason Glover, one of my favorite designers and definitely beloved among the solo board gaming community. So this is an indie title that, again, just like Cursed, you can't really find in conventional board game stores. You can purchase a physical copy from the game crafter, or you can print it today at home by purchasing the digital files from PMP Arcade. So why do I love this so much, and why did I make it number 1 in this list? Well, aside from everything else that I already explained, this is a solo-only game, okay? So that's already awesome. And then it has such a cool factor, alright? It is so unique. It is a sci-fi dungeon crawler that has amazing hand-drawn art from the designer, but also it is so simple to learn, folks, okay? It is just a front and back of a sheet. That is it. Even if you've never played a board game in your life, you're gonna be learning this in no time. But also, folks, this game has such an amazing capability of telling stories, which is a hallmark of Jason's games. In the basic version of the game, you're a nondescript character who needs to find the 5 fusion cells for your ship so that you can escape the moon. But as you explore the setting, you're gonna find conflict cards, which are these aliens, which will prompt combat. So there is a luck element involved with dice, but there's also a resource management element. You have health, ammo, and oxygen. And you also have starting items that will aid you. Now, if you get the expansion, there's two new types of cards that are added. There's characters, which will give you specific starting item combinations, and also a name and face to attach to your character. But also there's affliction cards that create a new way that you can lose and also add more pressure to you. So this is a print and play copy that I made myself, and one thing I love about this game is that it's all in black and white, so it's an aesthetic choice, but it is also convenient because it makes it lower ink than other print and play games, and that's why I'm telling you, you can just print this today at home and try it out. Hopefully you'll have some standard cards that you can sleeve together with this. One way in which you can save time when print and playing this is just using colored sleeves, so I do not have to print the card backs. You can just print the fronts of the cards and sleeve them with some Magic or Pokemon or dollar store standard cards, and that way you just put it together with the printed card in the colored sleeve. Of course, you'll have to provide your own dice and some colored cubes. And I love the game so much that I made a portable version for travel, which is only the base game without the expansion. But even the base game by itself, folks, is just so much fun. But yeah, man, that's Desolate. Still my number one. If I want to introduce someone to the world of board gaming, Desolate is it. Alright, folks, so I hope that you enjoyed the list and that you found the right game for you. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, go ahead and put them in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.